Hey everybody, I'm so glad that you are here watching Compliance with Kudzai. If you are a new subscriber to the channel, thank you so much for choosing to support this channel. I really do appreciate you. And for those of you who've been with me for a while and liking my videos and sharing my videos and all of that, I really do appreciate you as well. Let's keep it going. I'm going to keep sharing videos with you as often as I possibly can. And I'm hoping that you're going to continue learning and growing as compliance professionals. And of course, let me know in the comments, as always, what you think, what your contributions are, what questions you have, and I will always try and address them. But I always say, I do not know everything there is to know about everything, but I will absolutely 100% try to find you the answers to the questions if it is not within my personal area of knowledge or expertise. I know I certainly know someone somewhere who knows the answer to the question. So yeah, thank you so much, guys, for always being here and supporting me. We're growing and I'm excited about it. Let's keep it going. Today, what are we talking about today? Today, we are talking about the difference between being a generalist and a specialist in the compliance world. So what I was, as I was in the corporate space and as I still am, is a generalist. And I enjoy it and I love it. And I'm going to share some of what that means with you. And there are other people who are specialists and they love it and they enjoy it. And I'm going to share what that means with you as well. And my hope and my goal, especially for those of you who are starting out in your careers, that this video is going to help you find direction, maybe make some key decisions about the way forward in your own career journey. Do you want to be a generalist? Do you want to be a specialist? And once you understand what that means, you'll be able to choose a direction and run with it. Okay, let's jump straight into the subject matter. So like I said, I came up in the compliance space as a generalist. And what a generalist is a compliance officer who typically supports a specific product house, service, organization, depending on the scope or size of the business. It might be divided into different product houses, lines of business. If it's maybe smaller, then you're it. So when you're a compliance officer who's a generalist, you have to know the full suite of laws and regulations that apply to your business and be able to advise them in BAU, business as usual, day-to-day kind of things, as well as on specific projects, initiatives, new businesses that they want to launch, whatever the case is. Your role is to have the full view of all the laws and regulations that apply to the business and understanding how they apply to the business and advising them accordingly. So that means you also have to have an in-depth knowledge of how the business itself works. What are our products? What are our services? How do we deliver them? What are the operations and technologies that are involved? Who are the people and teams that are involved? So you have to have that clear understanding of how your business operates, and then how the laws that sit and apply to that business can then be manifested, operationalized, put in place controls and all of that to make sure that you're staying in compliance with those laws. So that's what your role as a generalist would be. The specialist, however, does not typically have to have an in-depth knowledge of how the business operates. They rely on us, the line of business compliance officers, for that. Where they have an in-depth knowledge is in a specific subject matter. So you can be a financial crime specialist, or even within the financial crime space, you can then be a subset specialist. So fraud, anti-bribery and corruption, anti-money laundering, you can be a specialist in those areas specifically. And so what your job is to understand the minutiae, the detail, the specifics of that law, regulation, whether it's, from a FATF level all the way to your local law and regulations that have been put in place, to be able to advise the line of business compliance officers about the specifics and the minutiae of the detail that they might not have gone into that in-depth level of, And then we take that knowledge that you share with us and that information that you share with us and say, okay, with the in-depth knowledge that I have of my specific business or product house or suite of services, how does this impact us? How does this apply? What do we need to be doing from a control and operations perspective? So your specialist doesn't have to necessarily have in-depth knowledge of how the entire, imagine working for a multinational organization and they have 60 different lines of business. The specialist doesn't need to know how all of that works. They need to have their specialist knowledge on their special subject matter, and then they work with the different line of business compliance officers that have that in-depth knowledge of how the business works and say, okay, this is what laws are coming up in this space are. How does it affect your business? Let's have a look at it. Let's work together and figure out the impact. And with your business, how does that work? And with your business, how does that work? So it's definitely a team effort. And similarly, the line of business officer, because they have to have a bird's eye view and knowledge of all the laws of regulations that apply, you don't necessarily have the time to go in depth to the minutia of every single specialist type of law, like your AML, your international sanctions. Yes, you have to have knowledge, but you don't necessarily have time to go as in-depth as a specialist does. So you can rely on your specialist to be able to say, this is what's happening in the AML space. This is what's happening in the data protection space. This is what's happening in the cybersecurity space. And they come and tell you and help you figure out what the impact is on your specific business with the business knowledge that you have. So I'll give you an example. When I worked in London, I supported two lines of business, the global trade finance business and the card services business, international prepaid card services business. So when we talked about global trade finance, you know, your letters of credit, your supply chain financing, your export credit agency business, typically we'd be looking at your AML and your international sanctions laws. So I had an in-depth knowledge of what does a traditional trade mean, and what is a letter of credit and supply chain financing and all that sort of stuff. I understood that really well. And then when it came to certain transactions, I would work with the international sanctions teams and say, this is my assessment of the risk of this specific deal or transaction that we are wanting to do. Is there anything that I've missed? Is there anything else I need to add in terms of controls or requirements? And they'll be like, no, Kudzai, great job. Or Kudzai, actually, I think we need to add this and add that. And then I take that and advise the business accordingly. Similarly, with the card business, I had to have an overview of the payment services regulation, the EU payment services regulations, what applied in the UK, the consumer protection laws, the, what is that stuff? The AML and customer due diligence stuff. So a whole suite of laws and regulations that would apply to the international prepaid card business. Fine. But if there's something that we wanted to do, cross-border initiatives or anything like that, I could then rely on the subject matter experts and be like, on this specific issue, this is my assessment of the risk. And they would help me analyze it and say, okay, this you've done well, this we need to shore it up a little bit, we need to add that, this is not necessary. Oh, great job, Kudzai. Hundreds. So in terms of supporting those two lines of businesses, it was a collaborative effort. I worked with the business directly. I would seek additional advice and support from the subject matter experts where required and bring that to the bigger picture and be able to say, here you go, business. This is your risk assessment of your new product approval or of this specific transaction that you want to do. We're happy, we're not happy, we're comfortable, we're not comfortable, do these extra things, and then you can go ahead. So it's really not about one is better or one is superior or one is, you know, whatever the case might be. It's about collaborating with your subject matter experts. If you're in a business that has that type of structure as the generalist and saying, okay, I pull everything together, create the full picture with the support of the SMEs, and then present the risk assessment to the business about the different things that they are trying to achieve, whether it's strategic direction, whether it's product specific or a BAU type of question. We support each other and work well together between the generalist and the subject matter expert. So it's an exciting place. Whichever one you choose, you're not going to be disappointed. You're either going deep into a particular subject matter or broad across all the subject matters, and then having the support where necessary of the specialists. So that is the difference between a generalist and a specialist. So I want you guys to go and have a seat and say, whether you're in the banking space, asset management, insurance, pension funds, payments, remittances, whether you're in the NGO space, mining, oil and gas, whatever. Do I want to be a generalist and have knowledge across the board and then get the support of the specialists? Or do I feel, I'm not really interested in knowing too much about the business, not my warehouse, but I really want to go in depth into AML. I really want to go in depth into data protection and have the capacity to advise people like myself who are generalists about, how best they apply that in their unique spaces and products and services. I hope you found this video helpful. Our world as compliance officers, if I may say, is so exciting. I really hope that wherever you are in your compliance journey, you are fired up and learning and growing, because it is such an exciting place to be working in. Either way, I'm going to be here continuing to share about my experience, my knowledge with you to help you on your own journey, and we'll see where that takes you. But until the next video, guys, bye.